Okay, welcome back to the channel everybody. In this particular video we're going to take a look at possibly one of the hottest golf training aid products on the market, the G-Box. So you'll see I've got a belt on here, we've got two boxes. We're going to talk a little bit about it, possibly what it's trying to encourage you to do in a golf swing, which I can really relate to personally myself, as well as what I see a lot of my pupils maybe struggle with in day-to-day sessions. So we're going to talk a little bit about how it can possibly benefit your game, and we'll test it and we'll see maybe what results it actually gives me in this particular video. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the product first, and maybe the brains behind this particular training aid, who's actually devised it, is an American golf coach called George Gankas. You may have come across him on Instagram, very big page on there. Teaches a lot of the European Tour players, US Tour players, ladies PGA Tour players. And really I think the big sort of talking point around sort of golf swings, or the modern day golf swings now, is all around how you can turn, how we can clear, and we see a lot of it on tour, don't we, on TV, how these golfers are now really opening up their body, you know, creating very much more speed. You know, speed is a big talking point at the moment. Club face control, consistency of ball strike, which is basically a low point control. And this is what this G-Box is sort of promoting. It can help in your golf game. So we've got a belt which has got Velcros on, which just goes on the back. So you've got the G logo on the back, it just laps over there, securely fits on. And then we have two very lightweight sort of boxes. One has a white line which will go on your lead hip, okay, which will sort of roughly point towards your target, and then the other box, which doesn't have a line on, will go on your trail hip. Okay, so basically just Velcro on very easily, very lightweight, and obviously we get some resemblance of the hips. And what the idea of this training aid box is, as we make through that, or as we work through that backswing, we can maybe see how that white line, it can help you to sort of see how your rotation is, or possibly lack of rotation. So the idea here is just trying to get you to turn through that backswing, and then more importantly sort of turn back through that downswing and through that impact area. Okay, so what I would maybe want to do for myself personally, I would like to sort of test this, and I think my probably a little bit of a fault in a way is I just stay down a little bit too long, possibly don't clear as early as I'd like to, and sometimes I get my club sort of just dropping and trapping on that inside. I may attack, path delivery can get a little bit too much from that inside, so I always like to try and keep my club in front of me, try and keep it a little bit more neutral and create that little bit of rotation. So really interested to see how this can actually help me. So what I've done, I've hit multiple shots with my own personal 7-iron, my Wilson 7-iron. We've got some numbers, we've got some data, club head speed, ball speed, anything like that, and obviously dispersion. And then I'm then going to sort of work a little bit with using the G-Box and maybe see if anything changes on those results. Right, okay, so now I've got the belt on, got my boxes on. As I say, the one with the white line on goes on your lead hip, the other one goes on your trail hip. Okay, so the idea here, as we mentioned before, as you make that turn, it's just to make sure we're getting a really good sort of turn through that backswing, and obviously then that turn through that downswing follow through area. So the white line idea there is a bit of a visual, so as you get through that backswing, you've got to try and see if you can get that white line pointing at your golf ball. Now for me, that's the first thing that jumped out. That's really hard, and I wouldn't probably say I'm not the most flexible person out there, but at the same time I feel like I've got a decent amount of range of movement, and that feels really hard to me. So I think certain golfers there you would see maybe really struggling to make that hip turn through that backswing. So sometimes then it goes to that question, you know, if we let that lead heel just come off the ground a little bit through that backswing, you know, if we let that come off the ground, let that knee work in, let that hips rotate a little bit more, you can potentially get a little bit more out in terms of that rotation of the hips and get that line then a little bit more nearer to that golf ball. First thing that's jumped out to me, that's quite a tough movement for me personally. And obviously you've always got to think about your range of physical movement as well in this. You know, don't try and put yourself into positions that you just physically can't get into. It's all about sort of maybe just trying to push a little bit. Can you get that little bit more out of it? I don't think many golfers would actually get that at the golf ball, but I think if you can increase your hip rotation or make yourself aware of it, maybe increase it by 10-15%, it's going to create a little bit more power. Okay, so I've hit a few little shots with the boxes on to start with, just off camera, just to really get used. This is really the first time I've had this on, just to really get used to having these boxes on, just hitting a few shots, getting that sensation, that feel. And to be honest, first instincts, it does feel very good, especially through that clearance of the hips. So I'm now going to hit a batch of shots on the camera now with the boxes on, and we'll see if anything changes, maybe club head speed, consistency of flight, dispersion, everything like that. Let's have a little look, see if it does anything for me. Okay, that feels good. As I say, the big thing that jumps out at me, or what feels most different with that, is actually creating a little bit more turn through that backswing. So that's quite a nice little left-right shape, and I quite like that shape, to be honest. The big thing here is just to try and get that left miss out of my game. Oh, that felt really good. It does feel quite like I'm really open. It feels quite powerful. It feels like I've got a lot of lovely straight golf shot there, consistent, and it feels like I've got more room into this finish of the golf swing. I think a lot of pupils I sort of talk about or talk to during sessions, and they always say to me, I just feel like I'm a bit stuck. I just feel like I don't get through the golf shot, and that's a lot to do with the zero clearance of these hips. So they come down, they get stuck there, they're very square impact with the hips. The amount of golfers I see in that position, it's quite frightening really. And obviously then that creates these arms to fold, we get this sort of chicken wing happening, and that's that stuck position, and it's the fastest part of the golf swing, or part of the golf swing we should be creating as much speed as we can through that impact, but things are going to be slowing up because hips are in the way, your trail hip is in the way, things have got to break down, and then that obviously affects face control, low point control, and everything like that. Okay, again, nice neutral one, just a smidgy more left than those first two, but not anything untoward. See that club head speed just jump a little bit, 89, just getting short of 90 there now. Now, bear in mind, this is my Wilson staff model blade, so obviously the loft of this is 34. We're not going to see maybe some of the distances you might see when I've been reviewing, obviously, strong lofted game improvement irons. Okay, so as I say, the big difference of a feel, and this is the key thing for you golfers out there, is when you make little subtle change in the golf swing, they always feel much more exaggerated, don't they, in terms of a bit more wacky. And I have that sort of relation there with that backswing. It feels like I'm making a big John Daly swing, and I'm guessing this club hasn't gone that much further. It just feels like I'm really winding it up. Definitely feel like this lead shoulder's more under my chin as I'm trying to get that line to that golf ball. But it is creating a little bit more ball speed there, I think. Club head speed there, isn't it? Which is quite interesting. But the real good feel for me is through that impact. I feel like I'm just really open. I feel like I've got lots of room there. And at the moment, this ball isn't going left. I like that shape. I like the way that comes out of that in relation to that start line. Okay, let's hit one more shot. Lovely, really nice. I like the feels there. Different feels, but I do like the feels, and I like the shot pattern that I'm seeing. Obviously, for me, it would be go away and do a little bit more work on this, but I think if you're working with maybe a coach there in terms of rotation, how can you help control your low point, control your club face, positioning coming through that impact area, how you can increase a little bit of rotation. So if you're working on those things, then G-Box is something really good. Obviously discuss that with your coach, and something you can maybe start using in your practice in between your lessons, isn't it? Okay, let's just go check a few numbers out and see the differences between the swings before and the swings after. Okay, so I think if we have a little look at the dispersion rings, obviously what you've been seeing maybe through those shots, the white was swings before, and that's my killer shots that I do see on the golf course and do see when I'm filming as well. Those little bit longer pulley ones, so you can see the dispersion from the front to the back one is quite large, isn't it? Interesting there, I didn't really have that left miss in there. So this is the centre line. You can see I've just got that one slightly left. All the others were just, this is the centre line here, should I say. So this is the centre line of the range. So this is the centre line of the range, and you can see, I've just had that one pulley one in there. The others were in that sort of similar area. Again, it could do this on multiple golf shots, couldn't it? But I think as an initial little start there, I felt more confident that I wasn't going to hit that left shot. I did get one, but it wasn't as severe as the others. And then when we have a look at the numbers again, this is my my Wilson Staff 7.9, so lofting at 35 degrees, but we're looking at the club head speed there, so you can see 87.5 going up to sort of 88.8, so there is a good, you know, over 1 mile an hour increase of club head speed, and quite consistent on that. That's obviously related in some increase of ball speed, so you see 121 against 119. Launch, very, very similar. Spin, tiny bit more spin, probably through a little bit more speed there. Carry 178, so there's not a huge amount of carry there, and to be honest, the distance, the speed thing isn't a huge pull-in for me. Basically, I'm more interested in that club face control. Okay, so I've just added a couple of extra columns on the end here, what TrackMan have sort of measured. So we've got a club path, a face to path, and then the face angle. So we can see there now the club path was both quite similar actually. And to be fair, I'm in a position where I have been working on that a little bit, so I'm not quite as trappy on that inside. So you can see both those swing directions were slightly outwind by 2 degrees. So that hasn't really changed, has it? But then we look at the face to path relationship. So my club face with the G-Box was 1.5 open as an average, and the one without was 0.1, but obviously those two minuses there are the killers. So when we look at the face angle, which is your position where the club face points at moment of contact, you can see I'm delivering it closed 2.2 degrees on average. There's a killer. That 4 degrees close, that 3 degrees close, that nearly 2 close. That's what gave me the real sort of pull shots in my batch earlier. And then you can see there I'm averaging at 0.9. So, you know, more than halved the club face through that impact position. That's the key bit that I would be looking at for myself, is trying to get that club face to not flip or not square. And that's me trying to work the hips a little bit earlier, open up a little bit more, and that creates a little bit more stability to that club face. Right, okay, everybody, so there we go. There's the G-Box training aid. I think that's a great, very simple training aid, but a very good one that gives you some visuals. With that white line there, you can really start to see exactly what your hips are doing, something that I think as golfers we maybe don't take note of. It's hard to measure that or track that, isn't it? So I think with the visual there, I think, right, I can try and get that white line to there. I think you'll probably think, oh, that's really difficult to do. So good visual in that terms of things. And then as you're doing those movements, it's also you're creating a feel, the body feels in a different position. And most of the time, as I said earlier, that never feels a good feeling, does it? When you do something different at golf swing, it sometimes never feels like a really good movement. So then we sort of, as golfers, we sort of bin that because it doesn't feel as good. But if we can relate that we can get a little bit more turn there, creates a little bit more power, so a little bit of increase of club head speed, and that might be critical for a lot of you golfers out there. You know, if we can get that through that turn there, then, you know, it's something that you can have confidence to go on and practice. And then obviously coming on the way down, get your hands in front, you're not trapped underneath, or you're not coming over the top. You know, if we sort of turn too much, come over the top, obviously this trail box is going to get in the way. Or vice versa as well. If you get a little bit tucked under, the box again will get in the way. So it gets your hands in a good position. You can turn and really get sort of that phase control, which you can see is improved for myself there. Okay, post comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the G-Box. If you're interested in anything like that, I'll put a little link to their website in the description down below. You can go and check that out. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have, shared it around. Do subscribe if you haven't done so already. And hopefully we'll catch up with you all very soon.